Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures, where humanity always rises. The Galactic Council chamber had seen many strange events in the past, but nothing had ever brought such sudden silence as the message flashing across every screen. Delegates from 50 star systems stopped speaking. Advisors froze mid-sentence. Even the council guards, trained to stay calm, stared at the glowing words that changed everything. Unknown forces entering Earth's orbit, preparing to attack. For a moment, no one moved. It felt as if the air itself had turned heavy. The council had always feared one thing: someone someday might be foolish enough to invade Earth. And now it was happening. High Chancellor Ralvos stood from his seat, his hand shaking slightly as he looked around the massive hall. This cannot be real," he whispered, but the message kept repeating. Earth was a quiet world, a world the council watched carefully, but never interfered with. Humans were unpredictable, brilliant one day, chaotic the next. They advanced too fast, invented too much, and hid more secrets than the council could track. Everyone knew Earth was dangerous in a strange, silent way. But the Draviks, a proud and brutal warrior species, believed Earth was weak simply because it was small. Now their entire fleet was entering Earth's orbit. The council screen split into multiple feeds, each showing a different angle of the invasion. Massive Draviks warships slid out of hyperspace like dark knives, forming a huge wall of metal above the blue planet. Their commanders appeared on one feed, laughing loudly, their sharp teeth shining as they mocked the humans. "A soft world," one Dravik's captain said. "A small world. A world that will kneel." Several council members looked away. They knew the Draviks were powerful, but they also knew they were making the biggest mistake of their lives. "Why Earth?" a delegate whispered. "Why not a normal world? Why attack the one planet that no one dares to provoke?" No one had an answer. More ships appeared. Explosive clouds of metal and light formed as smaller crafts launched. Dravik's landing pods dropped toward the atmosphere, burning red as they fell. The council chamber filled with the sound of alarms from distant monitoring stations. Something large was happening. Something dangerous. A younger council observer zoomed in on one of the feeds. His voice trembled as he spoke. "They're not scanning Earth's defenses. They don't even care. They think humans will panic." "Humans do not panic," an older delegate replied. "They adapt." The council knew Earth was unpredictable. But what frightened them most was that humans always kept an unknown card hidden, a weapon or a plan that no one could guess. They didn't show strength unless pushed. And this time, the Draviks were pushing hard. On the screen, the first attack began. A Dravik's destroyer fired a massive plasma beam at Earth's upper atmosphere. The beam hit, but instead of burning through, it scattered like dust in the wind. The Dravik's commander paused, confused. What was that? "They're shields." "Earth doesn't have shields," a council scientist muttered. "Not publicly." Several more shots followed. Each one simply dissolved before reaching the ground. Something was blocking them, something invisible. A quiet fear spread through the council. Earth was not responding with words, not sending warnings, not launching ships. Instead, humans had gone completely silent. And silence from Earth always meant one thing: they were preparing something. Suddenly, several Earth satellites went dark. They didn't explode. They simply stopped sending data. Then more went offline. Then more. "They're shutting down their own network," a council technician said. "But why?" "Because they don't want anyone to see what they're doing," an old council member said. His voice held a deep fear. "Especially the enemy." The Draviks continued their attack, dropping soldiers into multiple regions around the planet. Thousands of landing pods hit the ground. Dust clouds rose. Yet no smoke of battle followed. No human armies appeared to fight. No explosions came from the cities. The landing zones remained strangely quiet. Too quiet. One by one, Dravik's transmissions vanished. Their ground teams went silent, without even sending distress calls. Some council members leaned closer to the screens, their eyes wide. Where did they go? What happened to them? Why is every landing zone dark? No answer came. A Dravik's general shouted at his crew, ordering them to reconnect with the soldiers below, but nothing worked. It was as if the Dravix troops had fallen into empty black holes. The council began to feel something strange, a sense of dread mixed with curiosity. Earth was hiding something. Something big. The sun dipped behind the planet and night spread across Earth's surface. At the same moment, small red lights appeared across several continents. They blinked slowly, almost like eyes opening. For a moment, the chamber was silent again. Council members exchanged frightened looks. What is that? Are those human signals? No, they are too synchronized. Then, beneath the planet's surface, the ground itself began to shift. Something enormous was moving underground. Entire regions pulsed with faint energy signatures. A deep, mechanical rumble shook the scanners. One council scientist gasped. Those are not natural formations. Humans built something under the surface. But there is nothing in our records about underground megastructures, another argued. Exactly, the scientist replied. Earth has been hiding them. A cold realization spread through the council. Earth had been acting weak for years, quiet, peaceful, harmless. But now, with an invasion at their doorstep, they were waking up. And whatever they were waking was not small. Deep under the earth, a massive shape slowly activated. Council screens flickered as the energy readings spiked. Something ancient, something powerful, something human. A final whisper echoed in the chamber, spoken by a council member who had always feared this day. The Dravix should never have pushed them. Humans do not show power until they must, and now they must. The screens flickered again, and then everything went dark. The moment the first Dravix plasma beam touched Earth's atmosphere, the Galactic Council knew something was wrong. The attack should have torn the sky apart, burned clouds, and exploded across continents. But instead the beam simply vanished like water falling into sand. The Dravix commander barked orders, demanding a second strike, then a third. Each one faded the same way. No explosion, no sound, no sign of damage. The council members leaned forward, confused and terrified. Something on Earth was blocking the attacks, something invisible and silent. But Earth never claimed to own such technology. Not in any public briefing, not in any council meeting, not in any treaty. Humans were supposed to be years behind in energy shielding. But clearly, they were not. Their defenses are not listed in our archives. A council analyst whispered. This is not normal technology. This is something else. Above Earth, the Dravix fleet adjusted formation and launched hundreds of small scout drones into the atmosphere. The drones should have easily scanned human cities and military bases, but the moment they passed through the clouds, they disappeared from the Dravix screens. Not destroyed, not shot down, simply erased. No signal, no coordinates, nothing. The Dravix officers panicked. They recalibrated, resynchronized, and launched more drones. All lost. The council chamber filled with whispers. What is Earth doing? Why can't we see the surface? Where are the drones going? One of the older council members shook his head slowly. Humans are hiding something. They are hiding everything. Down on the planet, the Dravix landing pods broke through the cloud layers, flames burning around them as they fell. Hundreds of them. Soldiers in dark armor, armed with cutting-edge alien weapons, prepared to crush human resistance. They expected chaos. They expected fear. They expected screams. But when they landed, everything was silent. Too silent. A Dravix commander stepped out of his pod onto dusty ground. The environment showed no movement, no human forces, no weapons pointed back. The city nearby was quiet, but not destroyed. Streets were empty. Windows closed. Lights off. It felt like a trap. The commander ordered his squad to spread out. They moved quickly, scanning buildings and checking corners, but every scan returned the same strange message. No life detected. Impossible, the commander growled. This area has millions of humans. His second-in-command looked around nervously. Where did they go? Hundreds of landing zones across Earth reported the same thing. No humans. No resistance. No battlefield. It looked like Earth had simply emptied itself. But that made no sense. Humans did not run. Humans did not hide. Humans fought, especially when their world was attacked. The council observed live feeds and felt something cold settle inside their chests. "This is not an empty city," the High Chancellor whispered. "This is a prepared city." Suddenly, inside one of the landing zones, a Dravix soldier shouted. His voice was loud, panicked, full of fear. "Something is moving under the ground." Before anyone could react, the transmission cut off. Then another landing zone went silent. Then another. 5 more. 10 more. Within minutes, nearly 30 landing sites around the world stopped sending signals. The Dravix fleet officers started shouting at one another, desperate to restore contact. "We are losing them. Get me their coordinates. Why are they going offline?" But no answer came. The Galactic Council watched the chaos unfold, unable to understand what was happening on Earth's surface. It was like the planet had swallowed the invaders whole. A council scientist rewound one of the last visuals before a landing team vanished. The recording showed a Dravix squad approaching a large dome-like structure that wasn't there on any map. The ground cracked. A red light appeared. And then the feed ended. "Humans didn't run," the scientist said. "They moved underground." If true, it meant Earth had a hidden layer, a massive underground network built secretly for years, maybe decades, maybe longer. While the Dravix stumbled blindly, Earth moved with purpose. Night fell across half of Earth, and as the darkness spread, strange lights appeared again across continents. Red, blinking, pulsing, like heartbeat signals. Thousands of them, dots spreading slowly, forming patterns no alien could understand. The Dravix High Command watched the lights with rising fear. "Those cannot be human weapons," one general said. "Humans do not possess this type of coordination." "Are you sure?" another general replied. "Because we're losing soldiers without even seeing the enemy." On one screen, a Dravix squad tried to retreat back to their landing pod, but before they reached it, the pod surface warped as if something invisible pressed against it. Then it folded inward, like it was crushed by a giant hand. The entire squad screamed, and the feed vanished. The council chamber shook with the sound of alarms from all sectors. Earth was no longer a weak target. Earth was no longer silent. Earth was waking up. But the strangest moment came when a Dravix officer reported something completely unexpected. "Our long-range scans show no movement from Earth's military bases," he said. "No aircraft launching. No tanks rolling out. No ground forces approaching." "Then who is destroying your soldiers?" the High Chancellor asked. The officer looked pale. "We do not know." The Dravix fleet grew desperate. They fired on random positions, hoping to strike back. But their weapons kept dissolving before reaching the ground. Something inside Earth's atmosphere was absorbing every attack. The Council realized they had underestimated humans deeply. The Dravix had awakened something they could not fight with standard weapons. Something humans had kept hidden for the day they needed it. The Dravix commander ordered a full retreat from the surface. But before the ships could pull their landing pods back, the atmosphere shimmered. A low hum filled every scanner. A pulse of unknown energy covered the planet like a growing wave. It was quiet. It was controlled. It was human. And it was rising. The Council stared in horror. Earth was preparing to strike back, and no one knew how powerful their hidden forces truly were. Every sensor inside the Galactic Council chamber flashed red as more Dravix landing zones fell silent. At first, it looked like a communication failure. Then it looked like enemy jamming. But soon, it became something far more terrifying. Entire Dravix squads were disappearing without a trace. Not dying. Not retreating. Vanishing. The Council stared at the screens as 30, then 40, then 50 landing teams stopped responding. One Council technician desperately tried to reconnect signals, but shook his head in disbelief. "There's nothing to connect to," he whispered. "The signals are just gone." The Council members exchanged worried glances. It was worse than they expected. Earth was hiding something that even their advanced databases could not explain. Meanwhile, above the planet, the Dravix command ship erupted in chaos. Officers ran between stations, shouting orders and demanding updates. "Where are our troops? Why can't we track them? Why is every landing zone turning dark?" No one had answers. Every time they scanned the ground, Their readings showed no Dravix bodies, no wreckage, no weapons, nothing except the strange red pulses spreading under the Earth's surface. One Dravix general slammed his fist on the holographic table. Humans cannot simply erase our soldiers. This is impossible. But even as he spoke, another landing team disappeared live on one of the screens. The squad was standing near a cracked concrete structure, scanning it. A low rumble vibrated through the air. The ground bulged upward like something alive. The soldiers stepped back, confused. Then the ground opened, not like a natural crack or explosion, more like a mechanical flower blooming. Red light shot upward, engulfing the squad. The transmission cut instantly. When the feed reconnected for a split second, the landing zone was empty. Not one soldier remained. No signs of battle. No sound. No movement. Just empty land and the soft glow of red lights sinking back into the earth. The council members recoiled in fear. What is that structure? Why is it not in our records? Did humans build this secretly? A scientist leaned forward, watching the replay frame by frame. His voice trembled. This is not alien technology. It is human-made, but on a level we have never seen. The idea felt impossible. Humans were supposed to be behind technologically. But clearly, Earth had been hiding more than anyone imagined. In the Dravix war room, panic spread as their ground commanders tried to regroup, but every squad that attempted to retreat vanished like the rest. Some squads reported hearing noises underground, heavy movements, metal grinding, mechanical breathing. Others saw shadows moving under the soil, tracking them from below. One terrified Dravix soldier managed to send a final message before disappearing. It's hunting us. Something under the ground, it's following us. Then silence. Over 50 squads lost. Entire battalions missing. No survivors. The Galactic Council knew now that the Dravix had stepped into something far more dangerous than a simple invasion. Earth was preparing for a counterattack, and it was using technology no one had ever seen. The Council screens zoomed out to show a global view of Earth. The red lights forming across continents started to link together like circuits. Lines of faint energy connected them, forming patterns that looked almost like a giant neural network spread across the planet. One council member gasped. It's a system, a coordinated system. A planetary grid. Another whispered. Humans built a global defense network underground. But how? When? Why didn't we detect any of this? The only answer came from the oldest member of the council, who had always warned them not to underestimate humans. Earth pretended to be weak, he said quietly. They hid their true power, and now that they are threatened, they are waking everything they built. On Earth, the Dravix ships hovering low in the atmosphere tried to support their troops, firing plasma cannons and beam disruptors. But every attack vanished the moment it touched the air. For the Dravix, it felt like firing into a bottomless void. Their instruments malfunctioned. Their readings scrambled. Their sensors lost accuracy. The planet below them felt like a giant machine slowly powering on. Above, the fleet admiral shouted, "Pull the troops back. We need to regroup." But there were no troops left. Only empty landing zones. Empty cities. Empty streets. The Dravix were fighting a ghost. A ghost made of steel, silence, and hidden human machinery. In the council chamber, one screen flickered with a final transmission from a Dravix scout ship. The pilot's voice shook. Something is rising, something massive, beneath the western continent. The feed showed a huge patch of land vibrating. Buildings shook. Roads cracked. Birds fled into the sky. The vibration grew louder until the scanners detected a massive energy spike. What is that? A weapon. A base. A machine. Before they could determine anything, the entire region flashed bright red. The feed burned out. The shock wave from the energy pulse rippled across the planet. It wasn't an explosion. It was activation. Earth was turning on its hidden systems. And every time something activated, more Dravix soldiers disappeared. The council chamber fell completely silent as they watched the planet's heartbeat-like pulses grow stronger. Earth's underground network was expanding, spreading beneath cities, forests, oceans, everywhere. Why are humans doing this? A council member asked quietly. The old member looked at the glowing planet, and answered with a voice full of dread, because the Draviks woke something they should never have touched. The council screens flickered one more time. More Draviks landing sites went dark, and then, without warning, the entire Draviks ground presence vanished. Every soldier, every pod, every trace. Earth had erased them, all of them, and no one knew how. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with a tense, suffocating silence as the last Draviks landing zone blinked out. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the air seemed frozen, as if afraid to disturb whatever was happening on Earth. The screens showed the planet's surface glowing with faint red lines that pulsed like veins, moving in patterns impossible to predict. Every few seconds, a large area flashed brighter, then dimmed, as though something massive deep underground was breathing. The Council's top scientists struggled to understand the readings, but the data made no sense. Human cities remained quiet, untouched. Human armies still hadn't moved. There were no tanks, no jets, no soldiers fighting on the surface. Yet the Draviks invasion force had been completely erased. That left only one explanation, and it terrified everyone. Earth had activated something hidden, something ancient, something built for war. On the Draviks command ship, fear turned into outright panic. Officers shouted at each other, their voices cracking. "We need to strike back now. Fire everything at the planet. Destroy whatever they're activating." But each time they fired, their weapons dissolved in the atmosphere. Each time they scanned the planet, the sensors returned scrambled data. It was like Earth was wrapped in a shifting, invisible armor. The Draviks admiral clenched his jaw, forcing calm into his voice. "Bring the fleet lower. We will force our way through." His officers obeyed, but the moment the first cruiser dipped under a certain altitude, the ship shuddered violently. Lights flickered. Engines groaned. Something was resisting them from below. The pilot's voice broke. "Admiral, we're being pushed back by something." The ship was dragged upward as if lifted by a giant unseen hand. Alarm screamed across the bridge. "Retreat! Pull us back!" the admiral ordered. But the ship had already lost control. It drifted upward, powerless, until it reached a safer height, and suddenly the resistance vanished. The council watched all of this with growing horror. One counselor finally spoke in a trembling voice. "Earth is defending itself. Automatically." Another added softly, "No, it is awakening." On Earth itself, seismic sensors showed massive movement beneath the crust. Not natural movement, mechanical movement. Entire layers of rock shifted in perfect symmetry, like doors opening. Ocean floors trembled. Mountains vibrated. Deep underground caverns hummed with energy. Across several continents, enormous circular doors, hidden for decades, maybe centuries, turned slowly and rose upward. Dust fell. Rocks cracked. And then the doors opened. The council's cameras zoomed in on the largest opening. It was shaped like a perfect metal ring, 100 kilometers wide, glowing with red lines. Inside the ring, something huge moved, but the sensors couldn't identify it. It appeared as one massive shadow with no readable material. "What is that?" a council scientist whispered. No one answered. Below the ring, somewhere deep inside the Earth, heavy machinery activated. The sound was faint but powerful, like engines the size of cities coming alive. The Draviks admiral saw the movement too, and felt a cold dread grip his spine. "We need to destroy that structure," he said. "If we don't, Earth will." He never finished the sentence. The structure pulsed. A shock wave of red light shot skyward, hitting the atmosphere and spreading across the planet like a glowing dome. Every Dravik's screen turned white from the overload. When the feed returned, the shock wave was gone, but something else had changed. Every Dravik's ship's engines flickered and dimmed. Their shields collapsed. Their targeting systems shut down. The fleet drifted helplessly, like leaves in the wind. The admiral stared in shock. What would they just do? A trembling officer replied, "They disabled us, without firing a single shot." The council chamber erupted in whispers. "This technology is impossible. Humans cannot do this. How can they control the atmosphere?" But the old counselor shook his head. "Humans do not control the atmosphere. They control their world. They built something beneath the surface that we never detected. On the planet, more giant underground doors opened. Massive pillars of metal rose into the sky, glowing red. They looked like antenna towers, but thicker, older, and far more advanced, technology unlike anything the Council had seen. The pillars connected to the red grid stretching across the continents. The energy readings skyrocketed. Then came the most terrifying moment yet. A low, mechanical roar echoed across the world. Every scanner, every camera, every listening device captured it. It was the sound of something enormous waking up. Earth shook from the force. Oceans rippled. Clouds twisted into spirals. And from the largest underground chamber, the shadow inside began to rise. Slowly, powerfully. As it lifted, the ground above it cracked like thin ice. Buildings shook. Dust billowed upward. The Council analysts stared at the silhouette, pale and breathless. That thing, it's bigger than a battleship. Bigger than a city. What did the humans build down there? The shadow grew taller, emerging inch by inch. Glowing lines ran across its surface, like living veins of light. Its form became clearer, a giant mechanical structure, shaped like a war machine but too advanced to classify. It was Earth's hidden guardian, a weapon built not to attack, but to respond. A sleeping giant awakened by invasion. The Dravix admiral staggered back from his screen as the massive machine's eyes lit up with two burning red lights. The machine looked toward the sky, toward the fleet, and then its core hummed, vibrating with endless power. The admiral whispered the last words before the feed cut out. "We have made a terrible mistake." Earth's giant weapon fully awakened, and the planet's underground grid surged alive. The invasion had triggered the one thing the galaxy feared most: humanity's true power. The Galactic Council chamber had never felt so tense. Every species sat silent, their eyes fixed on the live feed coming from the Sol system. Ships from dozens of worlds floated like ghosts against the black screen, waiting. The Council thought they had prepared themselves for anything, but no one expected what the humans would do next. After defeating the first invasion fleet, Earth had gone silent, completely silent. No signals, no warnings, no threats. Even the usual radio noise from Earth's satellites had faded. It was as if the entire planet had stopped speaking to the galaxy. Some believed Earth was simply recovering. Others believed Earth was planning something. Only one thing was certain: humanity was not done. As the chamber watched a quiet, empty space around Earth, a sudden flash of white light appeared on the far side of the screen. At first it looked like a star forming, but the glow grew, brightened, then cracked open like a shell. A shock wave burst outward, shaking even the Council's deep scanners. Dozens of delegates jumped to their feet. Someone shouted, "Is that a weapon going off?" But it wasn't a weapon, it was a jump event. Something large was arriving. The glow faded, and a single massive object appeared. A ship, but not any ship the galaxy had seen before. Its surface was black and silver, shaped like a perfect arrowhead. Its armor reflected no light. Its engines burned with a strange blue fire that no scanner could identify. Runnick, the Varan science minister, felt her hands tremble. "That is not a Council design," she whispered. "That is not an Empire design. That is human." The chamber trembled with alarmed voices. "Impossible. Earth cannot build ships that size," one delegate shouted. "Their world is small, their resources limited." But the ship looked anything but limited. It was enormous, larger than any dreadnought the Council had built. Its hull carried no markings, no flags, no identification numbers. Only one line of text, burned deep into the metal, glowed faintly: HSS Justice. A cold silence spread through the chamber. The humans had built a warship meant for vengeance. Before anyone could speak, the ship moved. It didn't glide like normal vessels. It snapped forward like a spear thrown by a giant, crossing thousands of kilometers in a second. Even the best scanners could barely follow it. "Speed impossible," a technician cried. "It's breaking every known limit." Another flash lit the screen. This time, it wasn't the humans, this time. It was the remains of the Empire's Second Fleet. Their ships had returned, gathering near Earth after losing the first battle. They had planned to strike again. They never got the chance. The human ship opened fire. But the weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. There was no visible beam, no missile trail, no energy signature. One moment the Empire's ships were whole. The next they split apart like soft metal. It looked as if an invisible blade had sliced them in half. The chamber gasped as entire cruisers fell apart in slow motion, drifting into glowing pieces. "What kind of weapon is that?" Runnick whispered. There was no charge-up, no light, no sound. The only species not shocked was the lone android observer, a quiet mechanical diplomat built by the Althean people. Its glowing eyes flickered as it analyzed the footage. "Unknown human mechanotechnology," it said calmly. "Probability. Humans created a space compression weapon." "Space compression? That is forbidden science," someone shouted. "No species could ever master it." But the humans had. The Justice turned again, engines flaring, and charged straight into the remains of the enemy formation. Instead of slowing down, the giant ship passed through debris fields and explosions as if nothing could touch it. The Empire ships tried to run, but humans had already locked them down. A strange ripple formed in space around the human vessel, and suddenly the fleeing ships froze. Not physically, time itself around them slowed. Weapons, engines, shields, all useless. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Time manipulation. That is impossible. Humans should not have access to such knowledge. They were primitive only decades ago. But nothing about humanity was primitive anymore. The Justice fired again, once, twice, and the frozen Empire ships shattered like glass hit by a hammer. The fleet was erased completely. Only debris remained, drifting like dust. Every delegate sat stunned. Every species watched with cold fear. Why would humans build such a weapon?" the council speaker finally asked. A soft voice answered from the back of the chamber. It was Tal, the oldest member of the council. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the silent human ship now hovering calmly above Earth. "Because," he said slowly, "they were invaded." The words sank into every mind. After a long silence he added, "And humans do not forgive." The chamber walls shook again as the Justice turned slowly toward deep space. Its engines began to charge, glowing brighter and brighter. The council realized something horrifying. The ship wasn't staying near Earth. It was leaving. It had a destination, and that destination was the Empire's home world. "This is not the end," Tal whispered. "This is the beginning of the first human strike." The destruction of the Empire's second fleet spread through the galaxy like a shockwave, and no world felt it harder than the Empire itself. Inside the Imperial High Command chamber, alarms echoed through the massive hall, red lights flashing across polished metal walls. Generals shouted orders, officers ran between stations, and fear filled the air like smoke. For centuries the Empire had controlled the galaxy with an iron fist, crushing small rebellions, absorbing weak worlds, and mocking anyone who resisted. But now, for the first time in its long history, the Empire stood face to face with something stronger than fear, something they could not understand. The images of the human ship, the HSS Justice, hovered in the center of the chamber, projected in red holographic light. The scene looped over and over, invisible blades slicing warships like paper, time slowing around enemy vessels, ships exploding without any sign of a weapon. The Emperor himself, a tall, scaled being with silver armor tied to his body, watched the footage without moving. His claws tapped slowly on the armrest of his throne. Every tap sounded like a death sentence for someone. How is this possible?" General Radhose finally asked, his voice shaking. "Humans were a small species. Their world was nothing. We were told they had no advanced fleets." Another general snapped. "Someone lied to us. This is not normal human power." Their shouting only made the Emperor's silence more terrifying. After a long moment he stood, his long cape dragging across the floor. "This is not power humans built overnight," he said. "No species grows from weak to dominant in such a short time without help." The room went silent. Everyone waited for the Emperor's next words, even though none wanted to hear them. "Someone in this galaxy," he continued, "has armed the humans." A heavy chill ran through the chamber, because if that was true, It meant an even greater threat was hiding somewhere. But General Radhose shook his head. No, my Emperor. The Council is panicking too. They did not help the humans. They fear them. Another officer added, our spies searched every corner of Earth's history. There are no secret allies, no hidden ancient races, no hidden technologies. Humans built these weapons themselves. The Emperor turned slowly, his silver eyes glowing. Built themselves, he repeated. Their planet was invaded only months ago, and in months they built a ship that breaks physics. No one dared answer. The Emperor stepped closer to the hologram of the HSS Justice. If the humans built this in months, he said, what will they build in years? The room trembled. Everyone knew the answer. Extinction-level weapons, galaxy-shaking war machines, planet killers. And their first target would be the Empire. A loud alarm suddenly flashed across the room. Incoming signal, a technician shouted. It's from the Sol system. Every officer leaned forward. A signal from Earth? From the humans? After they had remained silent for days? The screen shifted, static crackled, and then, nothing. Just darkness. At first they thought the transmission had failed. But then a voice spoke. Calm, cold, human. To the Empire, the voice said. This is your only warning. Officers froze. The voice continued. Humanity did not want this war. Humanity did not choose this war. But your invasion killed thousands of our people. The hologram flickered, revealing a human figure in a dark armored suit, face hidden behind a golden visor. A terrifying silence filled the room as the figure spoke again. We will not attack your civilians. We are not monsters. A small ripple of relief passed through the chamber, but it ended instantly when the figure added, but your military, your leadership, those who ordered the invasion, they belong to us now. The Emperor's eyes widened slightly, the first sign of fear his commanders had ever seen from him. The human voice continued. Your fleet above Earth has been destroyed. Your next fleet will fall the same way. Your defenses will not stop us. The hologram zoomed out to show the massive human ship. The HSS Justice hung above Earth like a silent titan. Do not run. Do not hide. We are coming. The transmission ended. The room exploded with panic. Officers shouted orders. Some argued to evacuate the capital. Others insisted they launch every remaining fleet at once. Your Majesty, General Radhose shouted over the noise. We must order civilians deep underground. We must activate the planetary shields. Another general screamed. We cannot let humans reach our world. They will destroy us. The Emperor raised one hand, and the entire room instantly fell silent. Humans are strong, he said slowly. Stronger than we expected, but they are still only one world. He pointed toward the stars displayed on the hologram app. We have thousands. But even as he said the words, something inside him knew it wasn't true. Numbers didn't matter. Size didn't matter. Power didn't matter. Not anymore. The humans had something far more dangerous. Will. And the humans' will had turned into a blade pointed directly at the Empire's throat. Prepare every fleet, the Emperor ordered. Summon every commander. The humans believe they can reach our world. He stared at the empty screen, where the human transmission had ended. We will show them how wrong they are. But deep inside, the Emperor felt something he had never felt before. A cold, heavy fear. Because he knew, this time, the Empire might not win. The HSS Justice moved through the silence of space like a creature that no galaxy had ever seen before. Its black armor swallowed starlight. Its engines glowed with a blue fire that did not match any known energy signature, and its very presence created a pressure in space that even the Council's best machines struggled to measure. Humans had created something the galaxy could not explain, and now it was on the way to the Empire's home world. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, every species watched the situation unfold in real time, unable to make sense of the terrifying power humanity had revealed. They are moving, Runnick said in a low voice. The humans have begun their journey. Delegates crowded around the largest screen as the Justice prepared to enter its strange warp system. Thick rings of blue energy formed around the ship, spinning slowly at first, then faster, until the rings were moving so fast they looked like solid discs. The council speaker felt his heart race. "Their engines are compressing space," he whispered. "That is forbidden technology." An android observer corrected him quietly. "This is not compression. This is something new." Before anyone could ask what it meant, the rings collapsed inward, folding like closing hands, and the justice vanished. No flash, no jump signature, no warp distortion. It simply disappeared. Panic erupted. Where did it go? Track it. Track it now. It didn't jump. It erased itself from space. Technicians scrambled across consoles, but nothing appeared. It was as if the human ship had dissolved into nothingness. But far beyond where the council could see, space ripped open. A long vertical tear of glowing white energy split the darkness, and the HSS Justice shot out of it, leaving behind waves that bent starlight for minutes. To the few ships in that sector, the sight was like watching the universe break. The humans had not used any known warp drive. They had broken the rules of space itself. Inside the human vessel, Commander Hale stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. He was calm, almost disturbingly calm, as the ship completed its impossible jump. "Status," Hale said. A young officer replied. "Jump successful, sir. No damage to the hull. Spacefold engines cooling." Another officer added, "Next jump window ready in 3 minutes." "Good," Hale said. His voice held no emotion, only cold purpose. "The Empire is expecting us. Let them wait." Meanwhile, inside the Empire's capital on planet Vorax Prime, alarms screamed across the sky. Every city, every military base, every government tower echoed with the same warning. Human warship approaching. Prepare for planetary defense. Sirens wailed as civilians ran into underground shelters. Soldiers rushed into armored transports, and air defense cannons turned toward the sky. The Empire had thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, and planet-sized defense networks. But none of it felt enough. Every officer who had watched the human transmission remembered the words, "We are coming." In the Imperial War Hall, General Radhose slammed his fist against the table. "We still cannot find the human ship," he shouted. "This is unacceptable." A terrified technician responded, "My lord, their vessel is not using normal warp pathways. They are entering something else." "Something else?" Radhose growled. "Explain clearly." "Sir," the technician whispered, "the humans are not traveling through space. They are traveling around it." The room froze. The Emperor narrowed his silver eyes. "Around space," he repeated. "Only theoretical physicists speak such nonsense." "It is not theory anymore," the technician said. "Humans have broken the galaxy's laws." The Emperor's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "Then they will break us as well, unless we break them first." He turned to his generals. "Deploy the Red Legion. All of it." A shocked murmur moved through the chamber. The Red Legion was the Empire's greatest force, its unstoppable army, used only in the darkest wars. "But my Emperor," a commander said nervously, "if we deploy them, we risk leaving half our border worlds undefended. Humans are coming here," the Emperor snapped. "Not to our borders, to our capital." No one argued again. Massive troop carriers launched into the sky. Swarms of black battle cruisers rose into orbit, and heavy dreadnoughts moved into a tight formation around the capital. The Empire prepared for a war they did not understand. But all their movements were too slow, because at that exact moment, space cracked open again. Only minutes from Vorax Prime, a single tier of glowing energy appeared. The HSS Justice emerged. It appeared so suddenly that several Empire scouts crashed into each other in panic. "Contact! Contact! Human vessel detected!" The Empire's orbital command shouted. "All ships attack formation." Hundreds of Empire cruisers turned their weapons toward the human ship. The Justice did not move. It hovered silently, its dark hull reflecting the planet's light. Then a pulse ran along its armor, cold, bright blue. The first Empire dreadnought fired. A massive energy beam shot through space. But the moment the beam touched the Justice, it bent. Not absorbed. Not blocked. Bent, like someone had grabbed the beam and pushed it aside. The dreadnought's shot curved around the human ship and flew into empty space. The Empire officers, watching from the ground, went pale. That is impossible, one whispered. Humans are bending energy weapons. Commander Hale watched the attack calmly. They started the war, he said. We finish it. He raised one hand. Engage the time field. A silent shockwave rippled outward from the HSS Justice. Every Empire ship around it froze, locked in slow motion, unable to move more than inches per second. Humans had turned the battlefield into a cage, and the Empire was trapped inside. Commander Hale spoke his final order. Prepare the first strike. The capital is next. The moment the HSS Justice released its silent shockwave, the battlefield around Vorex Prime froze in a nightmare stillness. Empire ships hung in space like statues, caught in a slow-motion cage they could not escape. Laser beams stretched across the dark sky like long glowing threads, moving slower than dripping syrup. Entire fleets that had burned through galaxies now looked helpless, frozen in a moment that humans controlled. Inside the Empire's orbital command center, officers screamed into their consoles, trying to override the paralysis, but nothing responded. Systems lagged. Engines refused to ignite. Shields flickered without activating. The humans had turned time itself into a weapon. Commander Hale stood calmly on the Justice's command deck, watching the enemy armada trapped around him. Time field stable, an officer reported. They won't break free. Good, Hale said. We cannot allow them to regroup. He turned his eyes toward the distant outline of Vorex Prime, the Empire's shining capital world. Thick rings of defense platforms surrounded the planet like floating metal walls. Giant cannons the size of towers rotated slowly, powered by glowing red cores. These were the Empire's last line of defense, the legendary planetary shield network. And for the first time in history, the system was preparing for a real battle. On the planet's surface, in the Imperial Throne Tower, alarms thundered so loudly the ground shook. Thousands of civilians cried in panic as soldiers pushed them into underground shelters. The air smelled of smoke, fear, and metal. General Rathos rushed into the war hall, armor clanking loudly as he saluted the Emperor. My Emperor, the human ship has arrived in our orbit, he reported. Our fleets are unable to move. Their time weapon has disabled our entire armada. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, his claws tapping against the steel table. Activate the last shield. Rathos froze. My Emperor, the last shield has never been used. Not even in the Eldar Wars. If we activate it, our planetary reactors will drain. Activate it, the Emperor repeated, voice cold as death. If humans reach the surface, the Empire is finished. Rathos bowed, fear running through his body, and sprinted out. Within minutes, enormous energy pylons across Vorex Prime began rising from the ground, each one charged by massive red cores. The sky darkened as dark clouds swirled around the towers, crackling with electricity. Deep underground, the planet's ancient reactors rumbled to life. A storm of red energy shot into the sky from each pylon, connecting into a web of crackling power. Suddenly, a massive dome-shaped shield exploded into existence around the entire planet, glowing dark red, like a burning sun. It pulsed with enough force to rip smaller ships apart. The Emperor stared at the shield through his throne window. Let the humans try now, he whispered. Back in orbit, the Justice scanned the suddenly glowing planet. Report, Commander Hale ordered. A full planet shield detected, an officer replied. Energy type unknown. It's stronger than any defensive field on record. Another officer added, Sir, our weapons may not penetrate it. Hale stood silent for a moment. Then he said, We expected this. On the main screen, the surface of the shield glowed brighter, swirling as if it were alive. Their greatest defense, Hale said, will fall like the rest. But before the Justice could fire, something unexpected happened. One of the frozen Empire dreadnoughts flickered. Its engines pulsed once, then twice. Then the ship shuddered forward by a few inches. Sir, an officer shouted. The time field is weakening. They're breaking out. Another voice cried. Multiple ships showing activity. They're adapting to our distortion. Hale's eyes narrowed. So the Empire has finally learned something. The time field crackled as the Empire's flagship, the Blood Serpent, ripped itself free, engines burning red. The ship's captain roared across open channels. All ships that can move, attack the humans. For the Empire. Several cruisers broke through the slowing effect, shaking violently as they forced their engines to operate against human spatial pressure. They turned their weapons toward the Justice and opened fire. A storm of energy beams and missiles filled space, racing straight toward the human ship. But the Justice did not move. The beams bent softly around it. The missiles curved away as if caught by an invisible river. Commander Hale's voice stayed calm. Activate the null drive. A deep hum shook the Justice. Its black armor rippled like liquid, and blue lines spread across the hull. A huge wave of distortion exploded outward. Every Empire ship that had broken free froze again, harder this time. Their engines died instantly, flickering out like candles in a storm. Even the Blood Serpent groaned helplessly as the ship was forced back into paralysis. Time field stabilized, an officer said. Null drive engaged. Hale nodded. Good. Now focus everything on the shield. The human ship turned toward Vorex Prime. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor gripped the edge of his throne as the human ship began to glow with a cold blue light. Brace for impact, he whispered. The Justice charged its main weapon. But unlike the Empire's weapons, there was no blast of energy, no bright beam, no scream of engines. The front of the ship simply shimmered, then space itself bent, warping into a sharp spear of distorted gravity. The Justice fired. The spear of warp space shot forward silently and struck the planet's shield. There was no explosion, no flash. Instead, the shield surface began to ripple. Red waves shook violently, sparks exploding across the sky. The entire planet trembled. Deep in the ground, reactors screamed as they struggled to power the last shield. The shield is failing, technicians shouted. The humans are breaking through. The Emperor stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. Impossible. But the shield continued to crack, thin lines of blue light spreading across its surface like broken glass. And everyone in the Empire knew, if the shield fell, the humans would come through, and nothing could stop them. The Justice hovered silently above Vorex Prime, its black hull absorbing every ray of light, while the planet below trembled under the strain of its own failing defenses. The last shield that had been the Empire's ultimate weapon now cracked and flickered like a dying star. Red energy streams splintered across the surface as molten rivers of power surged within the planetary reactors. Inside the Imperial War Hall, generals shouted frantic orders as soldiers scrambled to stabilize the shield, but every effort failed. The human ship had created a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. Its gravity-warping spear stretched through the weakened shield, bending space itself around it, and the blue light spreading across the hull reflected in the eyes of every soldier who watched. Commander Hale stood on the Justice's command deck, calm as ever, observing the massive energy rippling from the shield as it fractured under their attack. Status, he asked. An officer checked the readings. Planetary shield failing at 60%, sir. Structural integrity dropping rapidly. Hale nodded. Proceed with the next phase. Below, the Empire's fleets had been paralyzed for minutes, but now, small groups of ships attempted to escape the Justice's time field. They moved like insects crawling from a crushed hive, weapons blazing. The human ship ignored them. Its focus was only the planet, targeting surface energy nodes. Hale said, "Lock and fire." A silent pulse of warping energy shot from the Justice, striking the main shield generators embedded deep in Vorex Prime's crust. Explosions of blue energy surged upward, synchronized with massive tremors, and the shield cracked further, waves of red and orange flickering across the sky. On the planet, citizens huddled underground, terrified by the shaking, the noise, and the feeling that the world itself was breaking apart. The Emperor, standing atop his throne in the capital, clenched his fists. His scaled face glistened with sweat. "We are losing them," he whispered. Generals around him tried to reassure him, but no one had words. Every moment, another shield generator failed, its energy vaporizing into space, as if it had never existed. The HSS Justice moved slowly, deliberately, above the planet, its war engines humming with quiet intensity. No sound of weapons, no beams of light, only the invisible force of space warping against itself. The Empire's fleet attempted one last coordinated strike. Hundreds of ships aimed at the Justice, weapons firing in a cascade of deadly energy. But every projectile curved away, slowed, or simply ceased mid-air. Entire cruisers collided in panic as they tried to escape the ship's invisible grasp. The humans had taken control of the battlefield without moving a single centimeter. Commander Hale's voice came over the deck. Phase 2 initiated. Begin orbital compression. Massive energy lines shot downward from the Justice. The planet shuddered violently, tectonic plates shifting under enormous pressure. Cities crumbled as giant waves of energy tore through the streets, buildings bending like paper, towers collapsing in slow motion. The Emperor's guard screamed in terror as cracks appeared beneath the palace. "No," the Emperor roared. "We cannot lose Vorax Prime." But deep down, he already knew it was too late. The Justice hovered above the planetary core, its gravity warp pulsing, and the red shield now flickered weakly under the assault. Civilian populations were still trapped underground, but the humans were targeting the shield generators, not the people. The Justice moved with precision, surgical in its destruction, while the Empire's defenses scrambled to respond. Tremors raced across the planet, mountains split, and massive explosions erupted as the shield's core failed. Sparks and molten energy shot into the atmosphere as the last of the shield towers fell silent. On the Justice's deck, officers cheered quietly, knowing the planet's defenses were gone. Commander Hale said, "Prepare boarding protocols." But no one needed to move. The human ship's systems had already detected every major command center on the planet. The time field pulsed again, freezing the few remaining operational Imperial ships. Entire squadrons that had survived the previous phases were trapped helplessly in slow motion, engines burning, weapons frozen mid-fire. The Empire's might, once the pride of the galaxy, now looked like toys trapped under a child's hand. The Emperor's voice trembled as he realized the inevitable. "They will take the capital, my throne, my world," but it was already happening. The Justice fired a final pulse at the Imperial Palace. The blast bent space, skipped over buildings, and reached the throne tower. Energy lines wrapped around the palace, tearing through every structural support, while the time field ensured nothing could move to defend it. The Emperor stood frozen as the palace slowly began to collapse around him. Stone and metal crumbled like sand, yet the humans ensured no immediate harm to the civilians underground. The last moments of the Empire's capital were silent compared to the chaos outside. When the pulse ended, the entire planetary defense grid had been neutralized. Imperial ships drifted powerless above a planet whose surface trembled in ruin. The Emperor's personal guards had tried to regroup, but they were caught mid-step by the time field, frozen like statues. Commander Hale observed silently. Vorax Prime secured. Minimal casualties to civilians. All major military targets neutralized. A wave of calm passed through the bridge. Humans had accomplished what the galaxy thought impossible. They had erased the Empire's central power in hours, not days. The Emperor, trapped in the crumbling throne tower, stared at the glowing silhouette of the HSS Justice above him. "This cannot be human," he whispered, before Hale's voice came again, calm and cold. "It is." And at that moment, the galaxy understood something terrifying. Humanity had arrived, not as diplomats, not as negotiators, but as unstoppable force. Vorax Prime had fallen. The first strike was complete, and the humans had only just begun. The galaxy had never seen such power before. The HSS Justice hovered silently above the shattered surface of Vorax Prime, its black armor absorbing starlight, engines glowing faintly with blue fire, while the Empire's capital lay in ruins below. The last shield was destroyed. The Imperial fleets were paralyzed or scattered. The Emperor, once feared across 1,000 worlds, now stared in disbelief from the remains of his throne tower. Commander Hale stood on the Justice's bridge, calm as ever, watching the holographic displays of the galaxy. Every system, every fleet, every command structure of the Empire had been mapped, analyzed, and neutralized. His officers reported with quiet precision. Planetary defenses deactivated, warships immobilized, critical communications offline, civilians unharmed but contained where needed. Status of remaining fleets? Hale asked. Mostly neutralized or trapped in time field, sir. One officer replied. Red Legion is inactive. Command nodes offline. Empire cannot respond effectively. Hale nodded. Good. Prepare for planetary boarding. We will ensure total compliance before moving to the next target. In orbit, small squads of human assault craft deployed, dropping silently toward the surface. They were invisible to Empire sensors until they were already inside the capital, where the Emperor had retreated with his inner council. The humans moved with precision, securing major control centers, communications hubs, and command rooms. The Emperor's guards tried to resist, but each one found themselves immobilized by the Justice's time-field pulses. Every attempt to strike back failed instantly. On the bridge, Hale's voice was calm, almost clinical. All critical points secured. Imperial leadership contained. No civilian casualties reported. The Emperor, staring at the massive black ship that had destroyed his fleets, realized the truth. Humanity was not just powerful, they were unstoppable. Every human he had seen, every maneuver, every weapon, had been calculated perfectly. Nothing he had built, nothing he had commanded, could stop them. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of recognition or defeat. No one could tell which. The human ship's systems extended control over the planetary core, stabilizing the fractured crust and preventing total destruction while asserting control. It was a paradox. The Empire's capital destroyed yet preserved. The city in ruin yet still functional under new management. Across the galaxy, systems that once feared the Empire watched in awe. News of Vorex Prime's fall spread instantly through the network of intelligence nodes, galactic stations, and scouts. Worlds that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries now trembled, knowing humanity had arrived. They had not just defended Earth, they had erased an entire military power with surgical precision. Inside the HSS Justice, Hale stared at a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Plot the next course, he said. All occupied worlds will submit. Any system that resists will face the same procedure as Vorex Prime. One officer hesitated. Sir, even with this, resistance could continue. There are still thousands of Empire-controlled worlds. Hale's eyes did not flicker. Then we continue. Humanity is patient. Humanity is precise. Humanity does not fail. Meanwhile, in the remnants of the Imperial Council chamber, the Emperor gathered what remained of his leaders. His voice was calm but low, almost bitter. Humans are not ordinary, he said. They are predators, unlike any species we have faced. They do not fight like others. They fight like inevitability itself. Generals and officers shifted uncomfortably. The humans had targeted strategic points, but left no unnecessary destruction. Cities were damaged, not annihilated. Civilians were safe, yet every military asset was neutralized. The Emperor realized that he could not rebuild in secret, could not plan a counterattack, could not escape the gaze of the humans. Their technology, their precision, their will, it was absolute. Commander Hale observed the last resistance nodes fall in the galactic map. All critical Empire systems accounted for, he said. Time field containment active. Communication lockdown complete. There will be no reinforcements. The officers on the bridge exchanged looks. It was done. For the first time in recorded history, a single species had demonstrated complete control over another empire's military, economy, and command structure. The Emperor's own forces were trapped under invisible forces, powerless to stop humanity. Hale activated the ship's planetary stabilization mode, ensuring Vorex Prime could be rebuilt under human guidance, its population safe, but under supervision until full compliance was ensured. Across the galaxy, fleets watched in stunned silence as the HSS Justice lifted from Vorex Prime's orbit. Its next target would be selected, and all resistance measured and neutralized before it could rise. The humans were patient, precise, and unstoppable. No one in the galaxy could hide. The last words from the Emperor's communicator, broadcast before the humans cut all transmissions, were almost respectful. This is not just war. This is the rise of a species unlike any other. Hale turned to his officers. The galaxy has been warned. Let no one forget it. Then, with the silent hum of its engines, the HSS Justice jumped into the darkness of space, leaving behind a world saved from unnecessary destruction, an empire shattered, and a galaxy that now knew humanity had arrived, and they were the unstoppable force that would shape the stars. Every system would soon bend to the presence of humanity. Every fleet, every world, every council, none could resist. And in that silence of space, Hale's voice echoed calmly across the ship, the last command before they set the course for the next target. Prepare for the next world. Humanity claims the galaxy.